Hey everybody, welcome back to CineFix. Today we got a chance to talk to Baltasar Kormákur, who he is the director of Adrift, which is coming out this Friday, June 1st. He also did Everest and The Deep. He's a really interesting filmmaker, and he came by to talk about one of the films that has inspired literally his entire career. It's a film called Come and See, and it's a Russian World War II film that was made back in the 80s. It's an incredibly powerful film, and Baltasar has some really interesting things to say about it. Thank you very much for being here, Baltasar. First of all, congratulations on Adrift. It's a really cool film. I got to see it the other night.
Yeah.
But tell us just a little bit about the movie, just in general.
Adrift is about a woman that finds herself stranded in the middle of the ocean, and we don't know how she got there, and we don't know how she's going to get out of there. It's very much told from the perspective of this young woman, and it's a true story. You know, when I started digging around, I found out basically that there are almost none survival stories of women against nature. We all have it, men, as you know, said, like it's wolves and beards and, you know, men growling but in reality, you know, women have spent as much time in nature as men, you know, if not, we wouldn't have mamas.
Sure.
You know, and therefore it just interested me on a couple of these levels, you know.
Just from the look of the film, the idea of being stranded in open water like that is personally terrifying.
Yeah.
There's something so primal about just being stranded in literally the middle of this flat ocean, and it's infinite.
And the first shot is kind of what
Yeah.
I'm trying to set the tone. Is like you go from claustrophobia, stuck inside of a boat that you don't know if it's going to go down while you're stuck in there, and as it opens up, as it gets on the top of the boat, you go into aquaphobia. Yeah. You know, which is basically the most scary thing about the ocean, is that the wasteness, the endlessness. There's nothing on the horizon. You know, I saw more sea.
Yeah, and it's a film that's full of moments like that where you're just.
I think it's probably the place on Earth you can get furthest away from land in any direction. In reality, where this woman was stranded 1,500 miles away. For me to put it in perspective, it's like you're stuck somewhere in New York, and the only way is you have to either go to Iceland or to LA, and it's all sea.
But you did shoot most of it in, like, actually out there.
In the Pacific.
Yeah.
I wanted the color right in the ocean.
So, in talking about these sort of survival stories, one of the movies that you want to talk about is Come and See, which is a film from 1985. It's a Russian film. What is your experience with this film?
I mean, my touch with cinema was in the beginning just kitty kitty bang bang, you know, like, you know, that's how I started, you know. I didn't, but then, you know, I got more interested in seeing different cinema. And we had a film festival in Iceland, which I saw Kurosawa, you know, and which was fascinating, visually stunning. But then I went to this little Russian film, you know, called Come and See, and I hadn't heard anything about it. And I remember when I was watching it, I had no idea cinema could affect me in that way. Almost on an existentialistic level, which means that I felt I was in the perspective of this young man. The sound changed. He because of a bombing, he lost his hearing. This just gave me a new perspective of cinema and made me certainly much more interested in it, you know. Partly, it was the reason why I started making films. And secondly, I think it has affected on a deep subconscious level everything I do. And especially Adrift and Everest and The Deep, you know.
Yeah, and that's it's an incredibly powerful film. It just narratively, it's about this kid just trying to survive during World War II. So yeah, there is that element, like you said, with The Deep and Everest and Adrift, that element of surviving just out in these incredibly adverse conditions.
Being this kind of vulnerable, because it's seeing the war from inside, not from the outside. It's experiencing how it is to be in, you know, a lost Russian kid, and it's this amazing face that guy has as well. I mean, how old his face gets,
right?
And compared to how young he is.
He even develops like wrinkles.
Yeah, you know, it's incredible, and I'm sure they went through hell to shoot this.
Yeah, and this scene takes place. We're about 30 or 40 minutes into the film at this point, and as you mentioned earlier, there's a bomb that exploded nearby him earlier, so he's just lost his hearing, so he's not quite back yet. And here he is returning to his village for the first time since leaving to go fight with the resistance, and there's just nobody here.
Yeah, and this is a horrifying scene, and just how they slowly realize, you know, what kind of hell has gone on there. Instead of they don't show it like throw it in your face. You kind of discover it with them and through them, you know.
There's something too about how quietly they come in to see all of this, and there's, like you said, they don't throw it in your face. It's not like there's bodies strewn everywhere when they walk up, or
it's the horror is kind of what you might be seeing soon. And I mean, it's the bomb under the table instead of on the table.
Sure.
But it's just a way. And you're kind of deeply in, and you're also in his perspective because you can't really hear.
Another thing that you see a lot in your work too is how long most of these takes are. Yeah. Like there's not very many cuts in this sequence. So they're not going out of their way to make it one take.
No, and I like that. I like that. There is a balance of that when you start forcing the scenes to fit the camera, and the camera becomes more important than the story. But it has to be organic. Like this is very nice. He brings the soup. The camera stays behind. He goes. So you're not. What is somehow you get more. You're more in the perspective, you're more in the space, because cutting can actually, you can lose a sense of space and sense of, the time and all that. And I like that when, like in the first shot I do in Adrift. Sure. It's just to give you that you are there with her, you're stuck there with her, Yeah. I think sometimes when people talk about perspective and being, like, is a point of view, like how you see it, right. But that doesn't give it to me, There's more staying with the person. Yeah. And it is just something also, which is to trust your actors to hold the frame, Mm-hmm. And in the case of Adrift, that's what Shailene, I think she's capable of and does beautifully. Yeah. And allowing the audience also to see that you trust her to do that. Like it's a mutual thing. You kind of tell the audience, I think she's good enough to hold the right. frame long enough. See, I don't have to cut around her and take the bit.
Build a performance out of anything. Yeah.
I can actually rest and trust the performance, and that's. I mean, it's hard in the kind of the modern cinema because people want, let's get to it. Yeah. But if you give time to certain things, they will affect you on a deeper level. And I'm trying to do that in Adrift as much as I can, to allow people to stay in a perspective and build it up slowly and not start with the storm. Like.
Sure.
Give it time. So when it hits you harder.
Obviously, the text of this movie has very little to do with a film like Adrift. Yeah. But those movies that just stick with you and you don't know why, and then you realize later, like, oh, there's plenty of that movie in Adrift.
Yeah. No,
so it's really interesting to hear.
Yeah. It just kind of it boils inside of you and brings something out that I didn't know that I had this kind of need for. Man against nature, woman against nature, this kind of force of nature and how you kind of survive the coming from Iceland. It's actually kind of obvious, but it wasn't to me when I was being brought up.
That's great. That's really interesting. I really appreciate you coming and talking about the film. And Adrift is out June 1st.
Yep.
As of June 1st. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.